Okay. Communications? Yes. Yeah, from Amy Jo. Yeah. That's okay.
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, regarding the change order 8 to the Bancroft contract in the amount of $55,096.70, funded from Bond Hydro Repairs and Improvements, account 81, capital outlay/improvements. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order 8 for labor, equipment, supplies, and materials to install seals on the stop log panel, install proper ventilation for the powerhouse, install fencing around the switchgear building, and transformer with Bancroft Contracting in the amount of $55,096.70. Funding will be through Department 170, Hydroelectric Operations, Fund 81, Capital Outlay Improvements.
Director Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll have to talk to Donna Graham. She's making her motions too comprehensive, and it makes our comments almost useless, but I'll try to add a little more depth to that. This is the 8th change order related to the Bancroft contracting work at the Jackson Mills hydroelectric facility. I think you're all familiar that currently we're underway on a turbine replacement project. Side note, we're scheduled for hopeful completion in March or April of the coming year, where we'll be operational and actually generating energy and putting it back into the grid. This specifically, change order number 8, is a modification to that contract for some design elements that were not originally contemplated in the project. And I just wanted to quickly walk through those as Alderman Thibodeau mentioned them. One is the installation of fencing around the switchgear building, which is sort of the electrical infrastructure building that exists at the site. Based on activity that we've seen during the construction project and just more activity around the area generally, we feel a need to secure that building because it involves live electrical equipment. There's substantial voltages there, and so this is a fence that will ultimately surround that building but was not contemplated in the original design. The second element of this that was mentioned is seals around what's called the stop log gate, or basically the gate that stops things from going into the turbine entryway. There are some seals necessary around that until the design was progressed recently on that specific piece were not known to be needed, but they are now needed. And then finally, there's a ventilation component to this as well. On the actual turbine generation building, based on some design that we now, or some configuration that we now understand with the turbine on site, there's a need to install additional ventilation, specifically in the form of fans and louvers on that building so that there's air constantly moving through the generation building itself. And so those 3 components make up the $55,000 or approximately $55,000 change order that's in front of you. This is all within the limitations of the bond that's currently available to the project, and this will leave approximately $300,000 left in that bond and about $120,000 worth of contingency remaining with just those few months of construction left. Happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, could you please call roll?
Yes. Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Tyler.
No, just the ones that are here, yeah. That's okay.
Alderman at Large Melbourne Moran.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Ben Clemens.
Yes.
Alderman Patricia Clee, Vice Chair.
Yes. It's 5
1,
yeas.
2, 5 yeas, 0 nays. Yep.
And that passes. Next.
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Purchase of fleet maintenance and asset tracking software in the amount of $45,900, funded from 163 Fleet, 168 Solid Waste, 169 Wastewater account, 71 Equipment. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of fleet tracking software with Fletio, I don't know if I said that right, in the amount of $45,900. Funding will be through Department 163 Fleet, Fund 71 Equipment.
Mr. Rush?
Michael Rush, Fleet Superintendent. This is to replace our current software that we have in place now that is severely antiquated. It's also going to reduce our paper and ink intake by 80%. We still do a lot of stuff on paper. A lot of this software is going to be tablet-based now, so it's going to enable us to streamline repairs and have better accurate record keeping, as well as actual real cost analysis on each particular unit. We also collaborated with the wastewater treatment plant. They're also going to be able to utilize this software for their plant operations and maintenance schedules. So with doing that, we've combined that so that we don't have to purchase two separate software systems. So it's a very universal system, and any other city entity that wanted to use it in their maintenance program could probably piggyback off of this one. It's also got an inventory tracking capabilities, and it integrates with our GPS units that we already use in all of our assets, so we're able to pull all that data as well. Like if a check engine light comes on a truck, it's going to pop an email to us, and we're going to get notified right away so that we could tackle that repair in real time, as opposed to maybe letting it go a little longer and having a more costly effect to the unit. Happy to answer any other questions that you have on the software.
Sounds great. Alderman-
I do
Alderman
have one
Timmons.
question. Are you able to integrate the old paperwork into the software?
Yes, so we've also collaborated with the IT department, so we'll be able to move some of that data from the old system into the new system. We might have to change a few things in there, but we should be able to get probably about 90% of the information that we have there into that new system, and then upgrade from there or add information.
Any other questions? Mr. Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Chris Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Melvin Moran.
Yeah.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes,
That's 5 yeas, 0 nays.
and that passes. And next,
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Contract and appraisal services in the amount of $9,800 funded from Riverfront TIF account 70500, project contingencies. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a contract for appraisal services to estimate just compensation for the proposed partial taking of on property located at 4 Water Street with Bergeron Commercial in the amount of $9,800. Funding will be through Department 183, Economic Development, Fund 70500, project contingencies.
Director Hannah?
So just a reminder that all expenses paid through the TIF have to come to both finance and the full board for approval. So this is for $9,000, and it is for the appraisal of the about 2,000 square feet on over the water at 4 Water Street. So this is for our boardwalk, and it's to come to an agreement with the property owner as to the value of the property.
And this is what we were discussing last night.
It is.
Part of that eminent domain
Yes.
conversation. Okay. Are there any other questions? Alderman Clemmons?
Yeah, so just to be clear, this will come before the full Board of Aldermen for a final decision at the same time as the other legislation, or the same evening, I would imagine.
Yes, that is correct.
Any other questions? Mr. Clerk, could you take a roll call, please?
Yes. Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Moran.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes,
That's 5 yeas.
and that also passes. Next,
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, casting change order number 1 in the amount of $376,475, funded from bond, sewer structures account 81, capital outlay/improvements. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 to the contract with E.J. Prescott Incorporated in the amount of $376,475. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater, Fund 81 capital outlay/improvements.
And I had in my notes, there was Dan Hudson, and threw me for a loop. You weren't Dan Hudson, so I apologize.
I am not
So-
Engineer Hudson, but Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this
Thank you,
request,
Mr. Saunders.
this request before you is for annual casting purchase. In February of '24, we went out to bid with E.J. Prescott of Concord, New Hampshire, winning the competitive bid. That was in February of '24. They have agreed to hold their prices with a slight increase to 3%. So I'm here seeking tonight for approval to purchase our 2025 castings from the same vendor. Thus far, they've been able to supply us on time with the full order, and they've been a good vendor for the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, would you please call the roll, Mr. Clerk?
Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Moran? Alderwoman at Large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes. That's
Five,
So, no.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
And that also passes. Next,
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, 2025 Sewer Rehabilitation Engineering Services in the amount of $264,000, funded from bond Sewer Infrastructure Improvements, Account 53, Professional Technical Services. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the engineering service contract with Hayner Swanson Incorporated in the amount of $264,000 for professional services for the 2025 Sewer Rehabilitation Program. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, 53 Professional and Technical Services.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. This request before you is for professional services with Hayner Swanson. They're a local engineering firm. We do a lot of work with this firm. They support us here, especially being local. This request is for the sewer program. They've been on board with us since 2019. They also have a hand in the paving program, so the integration works well, having the same local firm, and if we need anything, they're there to support us. This professional service contract is for design analysis, bid support, and construction observation. I'll happily answer any questions.
are there any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Moran?
Yeah.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons? Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes,
5 yeas, 0 nays.
and that also passes. Mr. Saunders? I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. Mr. Clerk, please, next.
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Amendment 2 for the Walnut Street Oval intersection in the amount of $81,535.90. Funding from bond and grant Walnut Street Oval intersection account 53 Professional Technical Services. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve Amendment 2 for the Walnut Street Oval intersection project with Hoyle Tanner and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $81,535.90. Funding will be through Department 160, Admin Engineering, Fund 53, Professional and Technical Services.
Now, Mr. Saunders.
Thank you. Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this amendment we're seeking approval tonight is with Hoyle Tanner. This is for a LPA project through New Hampshire DOT. So this is an 80-20 fund split with the federal share being 80%. This specific amendment is for the ground survey. This is for the Walnut Oval project, right over my left-hand shoulder. This survey is going to allow the project that's in the engineering study phase to transfer into preliminary design, and this is the first step. I will say that there will be also additional amendments onto this as the preliminary design gets kicked off. We are trying to beat the snow before winter comes in, because if the ground's covered with snow, it's really tough to survey. So that's why this is here before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Moran?
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Next,
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Field Grove Pedestrian Bridge Repair in the amount of $85,000, funded from Storm Water Abatement FY24, account 54, Property Services.
I think this is your last one.
Yes, yes, it is. Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this is for repairs to the triple barrel culvert at Fields Grove that also doubles as a small pedestrian bridge.
Mr. Saunders, I'm sorry, I apologize. I jumped the gun. I thought he had finished, so.
I apologize.
Yeah, he did not make his motion. He still has to make the motion. I apologize. I thought he had. He just read the.
Intro?
The intro to it. I apologize.
I'd like to make a...
He's the one that's new in this one, and I'm the one jumping the gun here. So please, make your motion, Mr. Clerk.
I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the construction contract for Fields Grove Park Causeway Crossing over Salmon Brook to E.D. Sweat in the amount of $85,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, 54 Property Services.
Now you can go.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this is for repairs to the triple barrel culvert at Fields Grove Park. Through inspection, it was determined that water was flowing through one of the head walls and daylighting out, causing a void under the structure. So we saw that. In the interim, we went out and we sandbagged everything to kind of shore it up. In the interim, this was seeking a contract to go ahead and make those repairs. This went to competitive bid. E.D. Sweat, who is a contractor that has successfully completed projects in Nashua, was the apparent low bidder. And they'll once this gets awarded, they'll look to make those repairs. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just have one quick question before I call Mr. Clemens. I'm sorry, Alderman Clemens. I saw that there were two bids in here, and there was quite a difference between the two bids. Over $100,000 between the two bids of $85,000 and $187,000.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
So E.D. Sweat, they're a known commodity on the water. That's where they're comfortable working. They've just done the 88 bridge, or if you drive the Cotton Mill, if you drive anywhere through New Hampshire, you'll see them doing bridge replacement. So they're very familiar with water work. Where the other bidder is more of a general contractor, I would say, kind of a do-it-all, but doesn't quite have a specialty. So I think that was the difference in the bids. One was a little more comfortable doing the work and coming in, they're fine with that price.
Alderman Clemens, please.
Yeah, so my question is this is the bridge that connects Chestnut Street with Fields Grove, correct?
Correct, the culvert,
the
small footbridge,
Yeah.
yes.
So, during the construction, or how, I guess two questions. One is, how long do you think this is going to take? And then two, will there be access from the neighborhood into the park?
So, we have a long construction period with a substantial completion because they're going to try to time it when the water's the lowest, because there is some sandbagging and dewatering. That's probably the most challenging part of this contract. Once they get going, it should be about a week or so. As what we're asking here for, it's $85,000 is the request. That doesn't go very far these days, so they'll be there probably a handful of days. They're going to repoint all the mortar work. They're going to open up the concrete. They'll either put more concrete in or select materials or flow fill to secure that, and then pave everything in. So it should be a very quick hitting project.
Okay, all right. Just, that's my neighborhood, so
Yeah.
a lot of people go down there and access that, so I was just curious that if it's gonna be quick, that's fine. If this was gonna be a months-long thing, I would hope that we could find a different way to access that, but, okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at-large Moran.
Yes.
Alderwoman at-large Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at-large Clemens.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Next?
Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Nashua Transit System, Real-Time Bus Software, in the amount not to exceed $144,266, funded from Technology Improvement Account 81, Capital Outlay Improvements. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a multi-year contract with Swiftly Incorporated for real-time bus software for scheduling, dispatching, GTFS data, and reporting for fixed route bus services in the amount not to exceed $144,266. Funding will be through Department 186 Transportation Fund, 81 outlay improvements.
Director Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director. The next two requests, and I'll speak only to the first one, but they are related. They're part of a larger technology project that we're implementing as part of the Nashua Transit System. This first piece, the $144,266, is a 3-year contract with Swiftly Incorporated. Specifically, what this software will do is will allow for riders of the Nashua Transit System, those that are generally interested, and of course our dispatching and our staff related to Nashua Transit, to actually see real-time bus location during deployment of bus service. I actually happened to ride the Route 2 today, and the bus was several minutes late for my pickup along Amherst Street, but had I had this software in place, I would have been able to see that the bus was in fact running late or running early. It's a service that we've not been able to provide in NTS's history, but one that is it's fairly customary within the transit industry across the country. This is a 3-year contract. Beyond that, this will become a part of the NTS operational budget, but this was a discretionary grant through the FTA that we're paying for this with. If you recall, as part of the supplemental appropriations, there's actually a piece of this being funded with our match program as part of that. But again, I think both this and the paratransit software that I'll speak to in just a few minutes are going to provide an outstanding level of improvement to customer service and access to the transit service. And just to make a note, because I was worried that someone might ask what GTFS is, we try not to include acronyms in the actual requests. That's essentially the global transit feed that folks who use Google Maps or Bing Maps or the like use to access transit directions. So we actually supply data into that system, and this software will help us do that moving forward. But fundamentally, this will be a change to the NTS service for all riders moving forward on our fixed route service.
Are there any questions? I have one. And I think you actually said it, so I just want to clarify. So this is, the customer will have this on their phone. It'll be an app, and they can actually see where the bus is.
That's correct.
So they can see that the bus is approaching, or the bus is delayed, or for whatever reason. And so if they're like coming out of the grocery store, they can say, oh crap, I gotta get there really quick. Or it's like, okay, I've got a few seconds, I don't have to run that fast to the stop.
Alderwoman McLeod, if I can respond to that, that's certainly one piece of it. The customer side is the most important, without question. A lot of folks rely on this for getting to work on time, getting to appointments on time. But we know traffic accidents and the like do happen. We can't necessarily change those things from happening, but what we can do is prepare the rider for them. They can call their doctor's office. They can call their place of employment. This will change that entire dynamic, which I think is critically important. But if you picture the way that our dispatch center runs right now, someone calls, they wonder where the bus is. Currently, we have to radio into the bus driver to find where they're located. We can't provide dynamic information to the rider. What we're actually going to see, if you were to go to the NTS operating centers, you'd see a map with all of the bus locations. You'd be able to see exactly where a given bus is at any point in time. And so it's a game changer just as much for our back end, sort of the folks deploying the service, as it is for the customer using it.
I'm raising my hand just like Alderman Kelly did the other night. I hate to be ghoulish on it, but in some respects it also, if our buses were hijacked, we actually would know where they were too, in some respect.
Yes, that's certainly one piece of it, yes. Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't
Kind of popped
happen.
into my
Hopefully
head.
that doesn't
but
happen.
As I said, I hate to be ghoulish,
If
but
the,
yeah.
the movie Speed happens
Yes.
here in Nashua.
That didn't pop into my head. Didn't go that far, but yeah. But are there any other questions? Alderman Thibodeau.
You had mentioned, I don't see it in the actual verbiage here, but so this is part of the grant process also?
Yeah, so Alderman Thibodeau, this is a discretionary grant from federal transportation. It's an 80-20 grant, meaning that 80% of the funding is coming from the FTA, 20% is coming from the city in a few different forms. We've already allocated match in prior years. We've also allocated match this year. We sort of incrementally have put away match to the project, but it is a grant that we are taking advantage of for this 3-year period.
Any other questions? Seeing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Alderman Thibodeau is a nay. Alderman at-large Moran?
I'm sorry, Alderman Moran, we didn't hear that?
My apologies. I'm a yes.
Alderwoman at-large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at-large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, and that passes. Next,
From Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, demand response and paratransit scheduling and dispatch software in the amount of $112,477.
that's,
Am I on the wrong one?
no, it's 577.
577, I'll read that again.
Okay.
112,577, funded from Technology Improvements Account 81, Capital Outlay/Improvements. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a multi-year contract with Spare Labs Incorporated for demand response, paratransit scheduling, dispatch, and reporting software using a federal grant and local matching funds in the amount of $112,577. Funding will be through Department 186 Transportation Fund, 81 Capital Outlay/Improvements.
Again, I'm sorry, Director Sullivan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Part of the same project, but this software will actually be deployed on our paratransit or demand response side of our house. We provide rides to seniors and the disabled and others who need access. On any given day, we provide a number of trips from 10 up to 50. Currently, the way that we actually operate that service, it's actually it's very old-fashioned. We actually have folks call, make appointments, they provide information to us. We have someone that manually schedules those trips throughout the day. There's really not route optimization for picking up a given number of individuals around the region in which we provide paratransit service. That said, I just want to provide a quick shout out to Lori Lorman, who's been with us for about 40 years, who is our route optimizer, but she's done that manually, and it's a significant part of her job, and frankly, Lori is wise, but there are some softwares that have added great efficiency and optimization to this. And so, this software will actually allow us to take a slate of appointments throughout the day for our paratransit service and essentially push a button and have automatic route scheduling for pickups and drop-offs. It will optimize all of the routes. There'll still be some manual review necessary, but at least our hope is that it will greatly improve fuel efficiency, route efficiency, and allow us to do more paratransit trips, not only in Nashua, but for our regional customers that we also serve. And so this is a far more efficient deployment of our service than we currently operate.
Are there any questions? Alderman Clemmons.
So would the person still have to call on the phone to schedule that, or is that part of this too, where somebody could order something online or schedule something online?
If I may respond, I'm glad Alderman Clemmons asked that question. This also allows us to create essentially a customer database, Alderman Clemmons. It does allow them to do scheduling online. It also allows us to create profiles for and I know that may sound a little big brotherish, but really it's just customer data that will allow us to more easily schedule their trips and predict their trips. And so that's a huge part of this that I didn't mention. That's something that we currently do in an Excel spreadsheet, but this would allow us to actually join that with spatial data, allowing us to schedule those routes as well. It's a great question.
Any other questions? Seeing none, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Alderman Thibodeau is a nay. Alderman at-large Moran?
I'm a yes.
Alderwoman at-large Gloria Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at-large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes,
4 yeas, 1 nay.
and that motion carries forward. Next,
Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Amendment Number 3 and Number 4 for the Library Plaza Design and Construction Administration in the amount not to exceed $247,815, funded from Library Plaza Capital Funding Account 53, Professional and Technical Services. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve Amendment Number 3 and Number 4 for the Library Plaza Design and Construction Administration with Arcadis in the amount not to exceed $247,815. Funding will be through Department 181 Community Development Fund, 53, professional and technical services.
Again, Director Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. These represent amendments number 3 and 4 for the Library Plaza reconstruction project. Specifically, these amendments are related to the redesign and environmental coordination of the project. By way of really quick background, we have come here before to request conceptual design money as part of the initial stages of the project. We subsequently came for authorization to do asbestos investigation on the site. Lo and behold, we did not identify several hotspots on the site where asbestos was found. Therefore, amendment number 3 represents $5,000 of authorization to allow our designer to coordinate with our asbestos investigator. Actually, those are actually different services that we need to receive and procure. So that's that $5,000. The remainder of the balance of this request is $242,000 to essentially take the project from a concept level of design all the way to 100% construction documents and bid documents, essentially putting the project out to bid for construction. It's very exciting. That will take place over the coming months, that final design work, but it also includes bringing on Arcadis, the vendor in this case, to do construction administration at the site while the site is under construction. And so they'll be on site observing, coordinating the engineering work, and then ultimately assisting us with the bid as well when that goes out. I will just note, although not part of this scope, that we do anticipate bringing on, some folks may be familiar with an owner's project manager for the project. We anticipate bringing on that service at some point in the future, but that's not included within this request. Happy to answer any questions about the project generally or about these specific services.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you please call a roll?
Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Moran.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes,
That's 5 yeas, 0 nays.
and that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Unfinished business?
There are none.
Sorry, unfinished business resolutions, none. Tabled in committee. We do have one item tabled in committee, but that's R24 111. That's going to remain tabled as Mr. Mansfield is unavailable to discuss, and he will be at the December 18th meeting, and we will take it up at that time. And new business resolutions,
There are none.
new business ordinances,
There are none.
records of expenditure.
I'd like to make a motion that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from November 15, 2024 to November 28, 2024.
Are there any questions, comments? Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at Large Moran.
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman at Large Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
General discussion? Public comment? You will have 3 minutes.
Yep, I'm going to run my stopwatch here. Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I want to talk to you about policy and policy creation. Right now, when the legal office wants to hire outside consultants, they are free to do that without bringing anything to the Finance Committee. And I think that needs to be evaluated, especially because of these right-to-know cases. I contacted another large municipality and spoke to them about how they handle legal fees and the bidding. And they pretty much said that they follow what Nashua does, except that the mayor can approve contracts for legal services, for outside services, and approve fee schedules. However, they said if there are unique circumstances that are not typical issues that they handle legally, they go out to competitively bid, and that goes to their committees. And I think the lawsuit on the Art Center, where the city opted to pay the attorney's fees for the corporations that were set up because they had no source of revenue except for ours, that should have come to the board. I had no idea that almost $500,000 was spent on one firm. That is probably the most expensive lawsuit in the state on right to know ever filed. And the other issue that I think should have come to the board is that the mayor approved having Melbourne Moran's personal legal expenses for the defamation lawsuit that I brought against him paid for by the city. That is very unusual. He was sued in his personal capacity, not as an alderman, and the court found that he did not have immunity as an alderman. So I was able to sue him personally, and that case is going on. And the taxpayers have paid about $50,000. It still survived a motion to dismiss. There's an interlocutory appeal before the judge to potentially look at reopening it, taking it up to the Supreme Court. Why are the taxpayers paying Melbourne Moran's personal legal bills? And the Gallagher and Callahan had the mayor and Moran sign the contract, and the legal firm acknowledged the city was paying. But when they make the bills out, they're sending them to Melbourne Moran personally. See, that legal firm knows that it's unethical to bill the city for an individual client's costs that are not related to taxpayer issues. And that firm is protecting itself by sending them directly to Mr. Moran. And I think that's wrong. I'm going to be filing an ethics complaint with the ethics board on this. But the other issue is a citizen filed an OPLC complaint against him, against his company. The mayor covered the cost of that. Now, there have been other OPLC complaints, Office of Professional Licensures complaints against his business and his license. The city never covered those from other people, but they covered this one. That's stunning to me.
Time.
So please consider policy development on this. I think it's important.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Remarks by the Alderman? I have one. I'd like to thank Alderman Thibodeau for stepping up and being our clerk tonight. This is his first time, and he put up with my mistakes. I think I made more mistakes than you did. Trust me, you did a fine job. Tonight, you guys all had to endure with two people who aren't the usual people in here, so I thank all of you for that, and I thank all of you for showing up, because if you didn't, we wouldn't have had quorum tonight, so thank you, and everybody be safe and drive carefully. There have been more accidents out on the road this year between wrong-way drivers on the highways and what we've been seeing here in Nashua in front of Aldi's just a few days ago on Amherst Street and so on. So I'm asking everybody to drive safely. It's really been a nightmare out there. So holidays coming up, we don't need any more accidents or deaths. So please be safe. Put those phones down, stop texting and doing everything else. So Alderman Clemens, do you have a motion?
Oh, I believe Alderman Moran
Oh,
had his
I
hand up.
apologize. Alderman Moran, did you have?
Thank
have your
you.
hand up? Yes.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, I'm not aware of any complaints against my license other than one filed by a former opponent of mine for this position that I serve as Alderman at Large. As far as I'm aware, the board, OPLC, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the state of Washington have not made me aware of any other complaints against my license since I've maintained my license in each state. I just want to clarify that. And of course, any other comments you heard tonight, I deny as alleged, and I look forward to continuing the legal process to have a jury make a final determination on the claims that you heard tonight. Thank you.
I apologize for not having recognized you immediately.
Oh, no.
The person who spoke has left the room. So I apologize for that. Thank you.
I just want to clarify for most important, it's very important, anyone listening, that I only am aware of one complaint against my professional license which I hold in 3 states, and it was filed by a former competitor that I beat and defeated in the current position that I hold as Alderman at Large, City of Nashua.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Any other aldermen wish to speak? Thank you. Alderman Clemmons, do you have a motion?
I have a motion to adjourn.
Please call the roll.
Alderman Thibodeau is a yes. Alderman at-large Moran?
Yes.
Alderwoman at-large Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman at-large Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes, and this meeting is adjourned at 7:43.
What's the day?
You can just hit record.
I'm losing track of time.